Welcome to the real life show, Living with a Chronic Illness.
We are your hosts, Cassie and Chelsea. I'm Cassie, a single mom living with a chronic illness who is extremely passionate about living a full and happy life.
And I'm Chelsea, a mindset coach that has a passion for helping people learn to put themselves first and be the best version of themselves each and every day.
We came together to create Spoonies Unite, an uplifting community that offers resources, guidance, and support so you can live your best life while giving you the space to be yourself, be heard, and feel understood.
This show is not only for those who live with a chronic illness, but their friends, family, spouses, and just anyone else existing on the earth. There's a little something in here for everyone.
Thank you to our patrons for your continued support making this possible. If you love our show and want to get some extra goodies, go to patreon.com/therealspoonies-unite. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the real life show, Living with a Chronic Illness, with your host, Chelsea and
Cassie.
Today we are talking all about guilt with a chronic illness in relationships. It's part of our overarching series of talking about this. And today we are talking with Cassie's friend, Jess.
Yeah, we've got Jessica on today. And hi, Jessica. She's in Bend,
hi.
Oregon. And
hey, hi.
Yay. Jess and I have been friends for 10 years. And so Jess was around before I got sick, before I got my diagnosis, and then thereafter, and has been a huge rock and incredible friend through all of my life, and definitely someone that I've turned to a lot through illness. So we thought that she would be a fantastic guest for our episode today.
Yeah, so thanks for coming on to the podcast, Jess.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So since you were friends with Cassie before her diagnosis, you're still friends with her now, what do you think has been the biggest change in her or in your friendship since she got her diagnosis?
That's a good question.
Thanks.
What? So honestly, I think in our, like, the core of our friendship hasn't really changed at all. We still talk about pretty much all the same stuff that we talked about before, but the context of our conversations obviously has changed to include different things. We talk about her illness in addition to just all the other stuff that we've talked about, but it's been just a very organic change. And I feel like that's kind of a hard question to answer because I feel like our friendship hasn't really changed at all. I feel like it's still just the same as it's always been.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of, we but I think that's just life too. People's stuff that they talk about changes as things in their life change and different things become relevant and irrelevant.
But I think that's really nice to hear because I know that I have carried a lot of guilt about worrying about burdening friends, with my illness, or that I have changed, or that me talking about it is a downer or something. And so it's actually really refreshing to hear, no, it hasn't changed. We just also talk about that. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that maybe have had friendships change, relationships change. Then there's people that it won't change for or with.
I think that also, I've never looked at you any different having a chronic illness versus how I saw you before. And I think sometimes there can be that stigma associated with having a diagnosed chronic illness. And that people tend to just start treating people differently or look at people differently. But I feel like that's never been anything that's
that's really nice
come
to
between
hear
us at all.
Thanks, Jess.
Yeah.
Thanks for not looking at me differently.
Yeah.
In a world that I feel like I've looked at myself differently.
Yeah.
And
you're
felt judged
pressure.
And felt like people have looked at me differently.
You're putting more pressure on yourself than other people are.
Yeah. And maybe I even thought that maybe you might have looked at me differently. So now it's kind of oh, that's kind of nice. I feel a little bit more free right now in this moment.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. Oh my God. This podcast is so life-changing.
So we were talking earlier before we started recording about how, Cassie, when you're having a shit day, or if you just cancel plans on our friends, like Jess is someone that you call to be like, am I okay? Am I still a good person?
Yeah. So Jess has been one of the people I've called in like some of my darkest of moments when I'm feeling so bad and not good. And I just am like crying and I can't even, just don't know how to even keep going in any shape of what that means. And Jess has been one of the people I've called first. I've always felt unconditionally loved by Jess. And even when I'm going through my own like spinning cycle of like, I'm a burden. One day she's going to stop answering my calls. And I'm always talking about me. Our friendship's so one-sided. My illness just takes over everything. And then I would say to Jess, I'm so sorry I called. I'm taking all of our energy. I'm taking all the focus. Or I would call her, if I had just canceled friends with another really good friend of mine. And I would be like consumed with guilt that I had canceled plans on a friend, and I'd be like, I just keep canceling on her. I'm a terrible friend. And Jess has always been there, and I felt not judged by her. And I would definitely want to hear your perspective, Jess, of when you get like those calls, or maybe how that makes you feel, or is that maybe what you would ask too, Chelsea? Do you
That's
think?
what I would want to hear, is your side of that.
I guess the way that I feel is I feel for you mostly because you obviously don't feel good about bailing on plans. And, it's not like you're out every day, all day, like hanging out with friends and doing fun things. Like you're living your life just like all of us are. And so when you get those moments, when you get to make plans and go do fun things, and then to have to cancel it, like that sucks. Like you're so excited to do something and then you're canceling, and then not only are you pissed because you were going to go do this super fun thing, but then you're feeling like you're letting people down by not showing up for these things. Like that sucks, and that is like a terrible way to feel. And so if anything, I feel bad for you. I don't feel bad for you, I feel like compassionate towards how you're feeling, because that sucks. And then you're the one who's stuck in that situation. And then like it's such a normal thing, I think, to project those feelings onto the people that you feel like you're letting down. And then it just kind of turns it like, because you're already not feeling good, and then like that just, it all compounds, and then it all just turns into this like big thing in your head. And then you just want to be like self-pitying.
Right.
And so that like that sucks, and that's not like a fun place for anybody to be. And I just feel for you in those situations. I don't think that you're a bad friend, and I don't think that the people that you're having to cancel on think that you're a bad friend. I think people probably just wish that there was something they could do to make it better.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I think that's a really important message that people need to have, hear, and believe. And I think that's where I have said to Jess before, and I was saying to Chelsea, that when I have had those moments of being consumed with guilt and like being very self-deprecating and feeling like I am in this perpetual like bad friend, terrible, unreliable state, that when Jess will say, you're not taking over the conversation, or you're not being selfish talking about yourself, you're not doing that, I usually cut off those feelings pretty quick, because I believe Jess when she says that. She's very honest and very like, we have a trust between the two of us that we can say what we mean and how we feel. It may not always want to be the thing that we want to hear, but that's something I've really valued in our friendship. So I know that she's not just going to say that to make me feel better. I know that she would be honest and say, yeah, you're kind of like, you're a little bit like on a downward spiral and it's sucking all the energy. You're being a leech. She would say that if she felt that way. And so I trust. And so that helps me to believe that it's okay when I am calling her like that. And sometimes when I can't get out of my own head with my illness, and this is something I've really talked to a lot of people about, you just have to believe the people around you, that they wouldn't lie.
That if they're saying,
yeah,
I'm here for you, you take care of yourself, I believe you.
Yeah.
Validating that.
Yeah. I had a friend who had some like serious body image issues for a while, and she was really talking to herself really negatively about it. And I looked at her and I was like, listen, you are gorgeous. You are beautiful in every sense of the word, externally and internally. And she's like, well, you're just saying that because you're my friend. You have to. And I was like, no, because I'm your friend, I could be honest and be like, well, you don't look great today.
You should throw on some concealer under those circles or something.
And I said, but no, that means you have to believe me because I'm being honest. And that was kind of a moment when she and I was like, I need to listen to this medicine. I need to hear this. I need to believe my friends.
Well, also, I think those people who don't really love you and who don't really have your best interests at heart eventually weed themselves out.
Yeah.
So they're not even going to be there to tell you these things that may or may not be true or may or may not be false, because they won't be there anymore. Which is, those people who like can't hang or aren't authentically your friend or like whatever, they're not going to be around for very long.
Which is perfect.
They're just not looking for like I can't follow this thought.
No, I'm with you.
I mean, that full like well-rounded friendship that like it's just too like they don't have that capacity to like stay involved in that relationship.
Right. And that goes into the whole like letting go of the guilt around they didn't sign up for this. I mean, that's like perfectly saying like if someone didn't sign up for it and like didn't want to be part of it, they can go.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
So the people that choose to stick around in your life, you have to believe that they want to be there in your life. Right?
Yeah. And Cassie, do you feel like you've had both sides of the story happen to you? You've had people that are supportive and aren't really a part of your life anymore, and you've had people like Jess that have stood by you no matter what. So do you feel that over the past few years of you kind of going through your diagnosis and figuring out what's best for you, do you feel like the people in your life now are those that really do support you?
Yes, I do. That's a great question. I feel very fortunate. I feel like the people that are close to me in my life right now know me and who I really am. And I feel like I'm surrounded by a lot of unconditional love. Awesome. And it's really made me feel like I can like start owning my illness and like talking about how I feel and being more transparent, which I feel very blessed. Mm-hmm. I do. I feel like all the other ones kind of like have been weeded out.
Yeah, they disappear.
Yeah, they just kind of fall by the wayside, Either you stop making the effort or they stop making the effort, or that connection just kind of fizzles away.
I think that's just a natural part of relationships, period, in life. Because like I know not having anything to do with any health issues, but I've had friends that I was really, really close with, and then X, Y, and Z happens and you start to drift apart, and someone stops making the effort, whether it's them or it's you, and then they're just not a part of your life as much anymore, and that's okay. Like there's kind of an ebb and flow, and there will be some of those relationships that will last for forever.
Yeah, I feel like my group of girlfriends, I feel like would last forever. And so
you guys do a lot of traveling together, or at least you have done a lot of traveling.
We sure try to.
So I know traveling can be a hard time when you have a chronic illness, because you just so much is changing in your schedules and everything. So just as someone who doesn't have the chronic illness, but you're hanging out with Cassie, traveling, wanting to do all this stuff, I know there's been times that Cassie maybe hasn't been able to do all the things you originally planned. Do you think that changes the way that you go about your trips?
No. So it doesn't change the way that I go about, I think it would depend on the type of trip that it is. I think, Cassie, if you and I are just like solo somewhere, that maybe it would change it a little bit, but it would just be like an organic, like whatever, like we're just going to do this now instead of like whatever. But like when we were in New Orleans and there was 6 of us, there's 6. And that was kind of like a bucket list trip, and we were all so excited to be there, and there was so much that we all wanted to do. Like, I mean, it was a crazy jam-packed schedule because we were there for 3 full days, and then the arrival and departure. I mean, it was like we had like so much planned, and then just trying to get everything in this city with so much to do. And so when it shifted a little bit for you and you weren't feeling up to quite doing all of the things that were planned, I definitely still felt like I wanted to keep doing all of the things that I needed to do while I was there to get the trip in that I really wanted to get in. And so in that sense, I don't think it really changed my travel plans.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely hard to go out and like leave you at the Airbnb when I knew you were feeling terrible, but I knew that I really wanted to go like on the swamp tour.
Mm-hmm.
So there was definitely that like the battle of like not really wanting to leave you behind, but knowing that I also still needed to get in the trip that I needed to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how did you kind of work through that? Did you just kind of know that, one, Cassie was going to be okay by herself, and two, that you knew that she wanted you to have the trip that you wanted to have?
Yeah, I definitely knew that like I was not going to be like I knew that I needed to just keep doing what I was going to do, and that Cassie needed to do what she needed to do, and that we were both going to be okay with our choices.
Mm-hmm.
And that we were still going to support each other like
Mm-hmm.
through all of the ups and downs of that. And just knowing that we both needed to do what we needed to do.
Because I think Jess, or at least I would hope that you would know that it's like, and what I've definitely tried to stay true with my friendships and relationships is that no matter what I'm going through, I still want the people that I love to do all the things. And so I would be more upset if Jess were to stay home with me and not go on the swamp tour or go to dinner, knowing that she was missing out. So I was very much like, please go. Or if I left a situation, which that happened, I mean, I left like every dinner that we went to, I think, except one, and like lunch, and like, I think, and then like I didn't get to do a lot of the activities, or I felt like I was going to die at a lot of them. It was a super rough trip. And then for our listeners too, this trip was in September. It is, what is it? March 2nd today. This trip was at the end of September. And it actually was like a starting point of me having been unwell now for October, November, for 5 months, but I didn't know it. And so going into that trip, like I was super excited. And then it was like day one, I went downhill. And so there was a lot of disappointment. But I think I definitely told Jess, like, go do your, and everyone else that was there, I was like, please go do your things. I want you to have fun. And I spent, days in an Airbnb. And I think like, again, it kind of came down to a lot of trust and communicating between Jess and I. Mm-hmm. Do you think, Jess? I think so.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that, we both knew that we were comfortable with the choices that each other was making.
Yeah.
And I think that even though like everybody is like fine and good and on board with those choices, and like I still had an amazing trip, like I still had so much fun and did probably not all the things I wanted to do, but as close to all of them as I could. But I definitely still like felt sad and bad that like you couldn't be there with us. But we definitely still did.
But I think it's something important too, that I feel like you wouldn't not invite me on another trip because I like bailed on that whole trip. Like I bailed everywhere we went. I literally I spent so much money on Ubers because I had to leave every fucking place that we went to. We were like in the middle of the streets doing a freaking ghost tour. And I was like, I cannot make it. I'm going to die and I have to leave. And so I got an Uber in the middle of an alley on a ghost tour and went home. So I literally left. And then the next day we went to like brunch, and I left brunch early. I literally left everything that we did. And there was definitely a part where I was like, oh my God, like they're never going to invite me on a trip again. I'm like the worst. but that was our third trip last year. The other two went much better. And I don't feel like you won't invite me. I feel like you'll invite me on another trip.
Yeah, I mean, I've already invited you on like.
I know Spain might be a bit much for me right now. But I think that that's important for people to know. Like, if you do go on a trip and you have all the best intentions, or if you're going to visit somebody, or you have someone coming in town and things do not go the way that you hoped it would be, or the way that you planned that it would be, and you are disappointed, and maybe all parties are disappointed, I think like just having open communication with each other, trusting each other, supporting each other, and then knowing that like there's going to be another time, there's going to be other opportunities, and not getting stuck in some kind of like perpetual, this is it, it's over. I don't know, right? Yeah.
There's always going to be another trip. There's always going to be another like time to do something.
I kind of want to ask this question that we have on here, or maybe do you want to, Chelsea? I don't know.
Go for it.
Okay. I with talking about like someone having a chronic illness, someone not having a chronic illness in a relationship or friendship dynamic, both. I often feel like maybe things are quite one-sided, that you're always giving to me. And I in probably all of my relationships never feel like I can give as much as I want to give.
I think that's also because you're such a giver as it is too.
That's sweet of you to say. Thank you.
So I think that you have very high expectations for yourself, and you want to give everything to the people around you. Yeah. So even if you feel like you're not giving as much as you want, you're still giving a lot.
Thank you. But continue. I appreciate that. Thank you. I feel like very restricted in how much I can give to people because of my illness. I was actually just talking about that this morning at a coffee thing. And so, Jess, do you feel like there is give and take in our friendship?
Absolutely. I have never felt like our relationship is one-sided. I think there are definitely times where like you're like maybe a week or something where you're feeling like really bad and you're talking about that a lot more, like whatever. But then I have the same thing. If I'm going through something and I need to talk about it a lot, like everybody has times where they're taking more or they're giving more.
That's true.
I think that's just normal. Like it's not always 50-50 in any relationship.
This is why I love this so much, is it's like, it's just fucking normal. Mm-hmm. Like so many things like we've been talking about are normal, and it's just also there's a chronic illness involved. Like it doesn't have to be so different.
No, it doesn't have to be so different. And I think it's the most different, obviously, for you, the person who's experiencing the chronic illness, because anytime anybody doesn't feel good, you start to kind of like, oh, why me? What was me? Like, I mean, I've been sick for the last like 4 days or whatever, and I've just been on the couch like, like, you know, just, and you know, my husband is out of town, and excuse me, he's not here to cook me soup, and I have to do it myself, and I have to take myself to the grocery store when I don't feel good, and like I don't want to do that. Like I want to just lay on the couch and like not do anything, but you still have to like life. And so that, you know, I think that you're just lifing always, like with this thing that's just kind of there. Yeah. And I think that's just always gonna like sort of overshadow your way of seeing things and way of feeling things and way of experiencing things, because that's just what it is.
Yeah, I love that.
It's part of who you are. It does color your entire life and your experiences and your thoughts and how you approach things.
It does.
But that doesn't mean that it has to like control your life just because it's coloring it.
And it just, you know, like the other people around you don't have that. So they just see it as life. They just see it as normal. They see it as the way things are. So they're not thinking of it like from your point of view. They're seeing it as every other person in life point of view.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I really like that, kind of like having that added shadow in, or like you said, it being a color, because I hope that I hope that people out there listening are maybe feeling a sense of freedom of like, actually there's all of these people who maybe don't have a chronic illness and you think that they don't understand and they don't get it, and they fucking do. Like, you guys get it. I feel understood, you know, by both of you right now in this moment. Oh, I'm gonna cry. and I think like there has been so much life and living feeling like no one is going to get it. No one's going to understand unless they have it. And like, it can be a really lonely world out there for someone living with a chronic illness. Mm-hmm. And I would really hope that they would feel, I don't know, like people get it. They don't have to have it or be going through that experience to get it. That's at least what I'm getting in this moment.
I mean, I feel like I may not have depression, but I can definitely imagine what it would feel like to feel depressed. Just having my moments of like not feeling the best and feeling kind of meh about life. Like, I could definitely guess how that could feel if it was so much more worse or so much more debilitating. And I kind of think that's how I approach things with you of, I know what it feels like to not feel good, but normally my not feeling good lasts for like a day or two, not months on end. So I can kind of imagine like, oh, it's that, but it's so much more intense, so much longer, and so much more of a part of my life. Yeah.
Amazing shit's happening, guys.
And just to talk about the like the give and take part of the relationship and how you feel like it's like one-sided on your part sometimes. Like, okay, just in the last year, you were my maid of honor at my wedding. You came to Mexico with me for my bachelorette party. You came to Bend for my wedding. You sent me this like super amazing like advent calendar box of gifts leading up to my wedding.
I did. I made a bride advent calendar.
Oh my God, that's so cute.
like you are an amazing friend, and you show up
Jess.
in like every capacity that you can, like as often as you can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I really am gonna cry today, you guys. So
and you went to LA with me.
Oh yeah.
You didn't have to go wedding dress shopping. I mean, like you showed up so much.
I love you
through all of those things, you know. So that's like, don't forget about those things.
Okay, giving yourself the credit for what you doing, the things that you can, and that you do.
Totes.
Good job.
Need to work on that. Like when you were saying earlier that you're good at stuff, we need to be like nice to ourselves.
For stuff. So one last question I'd have for you, Jess, as we start to wrap this up, is for someone who maybe their friend just got diagnosed for a chronic illness, or maybe they just met someone who has a chronic illness, what advice would you give to someone about being just like a good friend to someone with a chronic illness?
I think just to be there and just to listen. And like, I don't know what it's like, so I'm not gonna try to give like advice. I feel like people want to fix things a lot. Like that's kind of like a natural like, oh, you have this problem, let me fix this for you. Like, how can I help you? How can I fix this? And I think that's not an approach that works, because there's nothing really that needs to be fixed. Like you just, like, especially when you're going through something, you just want to be heard, and you just want to know that people are there for you and to feel loved and supported through what it is that you're going through. And I think just to show up in like those capacities, just to be a shoulder to cry on or an ear to listen, or just those little support things. And I think really just like, it's simple. It's easy. Just still be there and listen.
Yeah. And I think that's something that you're so good at, is holding space for me to like go through what I need to go through or talk about. And holding space, I think, is what we all need, whether you have an illness or not, is like someone who will just let you, like when you have a partner, they often want to like fix it. And you've talked about that, of like, when you've had something going on, it's like, just listen, you know, and are like, especially if you have like a male partner, they often just want to like fix it. And it's like, just let me talk.
Just let me talk about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just trying to have a bitch fest. Like,
exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Jess, for taking time out of your day, especially if you're not feeling 100% to talk to us about this.
Thank you.
It was really,
For
really
sure.
great. And I hope
Yeah.
there's people out there that start to realize, kind of like I think Cassie did today, that maybe the people in your life are there for a reason. They don't hate you. They're not annoyed by you.
Yeah.
They're not tired of you, that they really just want to be your friend and be there for you.
Yeah. That the people that want to be in your life and are good people to have in your life will be there.
Yep.
Yay.
Yay.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, Jess.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
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 We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please write us a review to help us reach more people like you.
If you'd like to connect with Cassie and I, you can find us on Instagram at The Real Spoonies Unite. You can also join our private Facebook community, Spoonies Unite, or you can visit our website, therealspooniesunite.com, for all sorts of resources and to stay up to date with our current projects. And don't worry, you can find all of these links in the show notes below.
Thank you to our wonderful Spoonie patrons for all your support, and you can become one too. That's right. All you have to do is go on over to patreon.com/therealspooniesunite, and you can get all sorts of extra goodies like videos of our episodes and more.
Any support is greatly appreciated. It helps enable us to create more content for all of you, as well as make this podcast sound better and better. Thanks for listening. We can't wait to be back in your ears soon.